Hey folks, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. Tonight, rather than baking tomorrow on New Year's Day, tonight I decided I was going to make my pies. And of course we had to have some. So I made a sweet potato pie with honey. Now I don't know, I'm not a southern girl, I don't know, I've only ever made one sweet potato pie and I followed a recipe for that, so I'm not too sure. But if this is the right way to make it, all I know is it turned out really, really well. So I made a sweet potato pie and I made an apple pie from pantry stock. So come along and I'll show you how I did that. All right, we'll be there in a minute. All right, our kettle's boiling. And I'm just going to put a handful of my dried apples in a bowl. You don't really need more than a handful because it is going into a pie with apple pie filling. So we're just going to pour a little bit of boiling water over these apples. We don't want them to fully reconstitute. So the apple pie filling is already moist. Now we're going to go ahead and work on our pastry and our sweet potato pie filling. I have my flour and lard and butter mixture, and I'm just going to use a little bit of ice cold water with a drop of lemon juice in there. Make our well, and we're just going to turn that into the center. You can't take water out of the pastry once it's in, so you don't want too much to start with. So we'll just put a little bit in first and toss it with a fork. And of course it needs a little bit more, so we'll just... Alright, this is coming together nicely. Now we'll just hand toss it a little bit, see if it makes a ball. Alright, there's our pastry, and we're going to need 2 pie tops and 1 pie bottom. So here is, and of course folks, I'm sorry I did not measure. I have this really bad habit. I think I used about a cup of fat and about 3 cups of flour. And that gives us pretty much 3 cups of dough. There we go. I'm going to pop these in the freezer to chill, and then we'll get on with the rest of our pie filling. Now here in Canada we make what we call butter tart filling, which is basically brown sugar, or in Quebec they actually call it sugar pie. But it's basically brown sugar, eggs, and butter. And I've discovered that sweet potato pie is very similar. So in here in the blender I've got my sweet potato. And I'm putting some butter in here. And I'm going to use honey instead of brown sugar. There we go. Nice dollop of honey in there. Alright, the lid for my blender is missing, folks, so we're just going to put this plastic lid on here, and we're just going to pulse this. And we'll be back once I've given this a stir. Okay, we've gone ahead, and I added an egg already to start that. I don't know how this is going to turn out, folks, because I've never made this before. I've only made 1 sweet potato pie, and that was at Thanksgiving. I've already put 1 egg, and there's 2, and there's 4 eggs. Yeah, that's about it. And I'll be back when this is blended. Okay, our dough has chilled, and we've got our sort of reconstituted apple. So let's do the apple pie first. Sprinkle some flour down on the board. But I'm going to use these little cake pans. These will be fine. Besides, the last time, the one and only time I made a sweet potato pie, it overflowed. So we'll use a little cake pan, and it'll all come out lovely, I'm sure. If this dough will roll out big enough. It should. There we go. Alrighty. Now we're just going to pop this in here like this. Oh no, this isn't the apple. This is the bigger one we want for the sweet potato, because of course I never do anything by half measures. And I made a lot of that sweet potato filling. Like a 3/4 of a potato, of a good sized sweet potato, makes a big filling. There we go. There's the crust in there for our apple pie. Now we're going to put these sort of reconstituted apples on the bottom, and that way the pie filling will help to reconstitute them. And you know what? I think I'm going to add some more dried ones. We'll take some of our dehydrated apples, just a couple more, to help absorb the excess moisture in your canned pie filling. Alrighty, now if I can get this open. Oh, there we go. It's my homemade apple pie filling that you saw me make back in the early fall. It's very jelly. It's got a very jelly consistency because of the our cornstarch filling. If you remember when we made the apple pie filling, poured it in the jar while it was still in a mostly liquid state, because we wouldn't be able to pressure can it. It would have been a viscosity problem. It would have been too thick. So when we did it in liquid form with the cornstarch, once it was in the pressure canner, it thickened up right in the jar. Let's get this stuff out of the way here. We'll get our top on there, and I've got a turkey casserole in the oven because, of course, being just after Christmas and there was only 4 of us and an 18-pound turkey, you can bet your boat before I even cleared the Christmas dinner table that I put together a lot of the leftovers in a casserole and popped it right in the freezer right then and there. It also saves you dealing with the leftovers in your fridge later when you're just turkeyed out, you know. Here we go. Alrighty. We fold our top and we put 1, 2 vents for steam and 3 because that's the way your mama did it. We'll take our pie here. This is a pantry apple pie, folks. Everything came out of the pantry. The flour, well, everything but the butter. The flour, the lard, the dehydrated apples, and the pie filling. Now I'm just going to tuck my crust and pinch. And then I'm going to pop this in the freezer to chill until my casserole comes out of the oven. And when the casserole comes out of the oven, we'll pop this in. Go there. And we'll just trim the edges. And we'll just pop that in the freezer. Isn't that pretty? Pop that in the freezer, and then we'll go on with the sweet potato pie. I'll be right back. Now we're going to go ahead and roll out our sweet potato pie crust. And again, I'm putting this in a shallow cake pan so that we'll have a deeper dish pie. And I'm going to make this crust a little bit thicker than I normally would because this is pretty liquidy with the honey, but those eggs will firm everything up. The eggs and the sweet potato will firm everything up. Now I don't know if that's how people make sweet potato pie. Like I said, I did it once, and in this case I have changed the recipe because I'm using honey, and I didn't bother looking at the old recipe. I just did what felt right. All right, here we go. We're going to pop this in here, and we're going to go ahead and crimp our pie crust over the edge, of course, because if you do it right on top of the edge, it's going to fold down into the pie. And we want a fairly high shell, thin piece there, so we'll bring up the crust. That's one thing, is I don't trim the crust off. A lot of people trim the crust off first. I don't trim it off until afterwards, because if I need an extra little piece to cheat for a nicer crimp, I can just slide it in underneath. Like that piece right there is a little thin, and we'll just pop that in behind, and we'll give it a crimp. Now I am not going to put the filling in this right away because A, the casserole is still in the oven, and B, I'm actually going to freeze this shell a little bit so that the sweet potato pie filling does not soak in too much. So let's put this in the freezer, and when the casserole comes out, we're going to pop our pies in the oven. All right, we'll be back when we get that far. All right, folks, our casserole's ready to come out of the oven. There's dinner right there. And our apple pie is going in the oven. And we're going to take our sweet potato pie shell out of the freezer. And we're going to pour in our filling. And here we go. Oh my, that's pretty. Now, like I said, the last time I made sweet potato pie, it was a lot thicker. But I've added honey and I pureed this a lot farther. And remember, those eggs are going to puff up too. So let's pop this in the oven. Now we've got our oven set at 400 degrees for 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, we're going to drop it down to 325. We'll be back when this all comes out of the oven. This is the turkey casserole that I made at the dinner table as we finished Christmas dinner. Let's just see how, and all I did was put a layer of meat, a layer of stuffing, layer of leftover vegetables, cover it in gravy and the mashed potatoes. And look at that. Oh, it smells like Christmas dinner all over again, folks. Yummy. We've got some mashed turnips, some sliced sweet potato, some mashed potatoes, some stuffing. Mmm, yummy. Happy New Year. There's our homestead honey sweet potato pie. It's got to cool a little bit before we can top it with some freshly whipped cream. But we'll be back, and the apple still has to come out of the oven. Alrighty. Papa's ready for his sweet potato pie. And I'm a little upset because I can't find my good pie lifter. So we're just going to have to give Daddy a big piece. Oh my, doesn't that look pretty as a picture? Look at the color of that. Isn't that beautiful? This is Homestead Honey Sweet Potato Pie. Oh yeah, I guess we could cut that in half. A little dollop of whipped cream. Watch it, it's hot, sweetheart.
Awesome.
Thank you. Happy New Year, dear.
Happy New Year.
Let's take the apple pie out of the oven now. Look at that. Let's cut into our pantry stock apple pie and see how it goes, or turned out. Oh my. Isn't that lovely? I need some whipped cream for that. Oh, I know apple pie needs ice cream, but you didn't go out and buy any today, dear. But let's just try a little piece, shall we? Pantry stock apple pie.
Is that my plate?
No, but it can be if you like. Oh my God. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying Happy New Year, and may this coming year be better than the last.
I'm half fed down here. I'm half fed down here on old Parchment's farm, baby.